The genre of movie it's a reality movie, it's a thriller. You're not supposed to see the effects in this. If the effects jump out and become obvious, it takes away from the story. So our job is to really blend all these effects in seamlessly. The stars of the movie drive up to the White House. You'd think that's really simple, but the White House doesn't let you drive up to the White House. We asked. Cars will drive through these gates, but they'll be driving into a big black parking lot. What would seem like a pretty simple shot has to be completely visual effects. We're gonna build the gates, put some grass behind them, digital trees. The White House will be completely digital. Other cars there, it's supposed to be a big meeting, digital everything. So the second huge challenge was the backside of the White House. This was shot in a park in Long Island, so we couldn't use green screens or blue screens. We had to rotoscope every single object and person in the scene. Then we had to add the digital White House and make it look photorealistic. We had to add trees, debris, dust, car lights, interactive lighting, you name it. There's about a zillion elements in these shots. And again, it's the White House that we've all seen thousands and thousands of times. Plus, we had to do shots like this that were through a window, so we had to maintain the dirt on the window and put everything in behind it. There's an enormous amount of 3D elements, which is another aspect of these shots that make them incredibly more difficult. And then, of course, one of the hugest shots in the movie for the director was the takeoff, which has Angelina leaving the grounds, and he wanted scope, which meant we had to add in all of Washington, D.C., and build every single vehicle, add every tree, and composite it in so that it looked real. Basically, it was a little set in a park in Long Island that we had to turn into Washington, D.C. This scene had some practical explosion effects too, which is a great place for us to start. But we wanted to build it up and make it more interesting visually, add some debris. We also needed to control the explosion so it didn't look like she would get killed at the same time. We also added the muzzle flashes from the gun, the bullet hits on the walls, the blood on the people when she goes around the room shooting everybody. This is one of many shots we had to add a lot of elements to, especially people. This was shot in New York at St. Bart's Church. We had about 2,000 extras, but they don't cover much in New York City. So we added digital people of all sorts, police, bystanders, politicians, and we had to add the snipers on the roofs, a lot of vehicles, policemen. Then we had to change the church structure because it was under construction. Every street scene had to be amplified. This was the scene inside St. Bart's where the president of Russia falls through the floor. Well, the church members didn't really want us to blow a hole in their pulpit, so we built a separate stage set where we could drop the actor through a hole in the floor on wires, which we removed. And then we added a completely digital environment around him with 3D flooring, 3D rocks, debris, smoke, and then composited it all together and then added it back into the shots that we took in the real St. Bart's Church. And then we had to blend everything together into a seamless sequence. Angelina escapes. Well, the tasers she fires into the guy we actually added. The truck going over on a big ramp was actually done for real. The only part we couldn't do was have Angelina in it when it went over. So our job was to add her to it and make it look real. We had to shoot her on a blue screen stage, so we had to build the interior of the car in two pieces. The part Angelina was in, and then the part that went over with the camera. Then we blended it all with smoke and debris, and we timed her movement to the background plate, composited it all together. And although these are short shots, they're among the most critical in the movie. Seen in the White House hallway, most of the bullet hits, the damage on the walls, the guy just getting shot, the hits on his body, and him exploding were all done by visual effects. All we had was a little light source on his chest for some interactive light. Everything else was added. The walls blowing apart, all the wires removed from the stunt people. We actually added paintings to the walls because they looked a little bare in the beginning. Then we added fire at the end as everything blows apart. The Frogger sequence. Well, we took out the wires, added some bullet hits, but we shot the scene in Albany. We had to add the Washington Monument and the Capitol so that you'd feel like you were in Washington, D.C. Angelina's helicopter escape. We couldn't take her out over the river and drop her out of the helicopter, so we shot this scene in the parking lot of the soundstage. And then we replaced everything behind the helicopter with practical elements. We shot Angelina against blue screen and then combined her into some real shots we did of the river and added a splash. Here's another scene we did in 2 parts, miles away from each other. The actual train backgrounds we shot in the rat-infested subways of New York City. For the second part, we had a blue screen set with a golf cart for the leap off the train and married the 2 together. It has to be said that Angelina has real guts. I was there when she shot that. She was hanging 10 stories up from a real building in New York City on a single wire. Our job was to get rid of that wire, which normally isn't that hard, but in this case, the wire went in front of her hair, in front of her coat, in front of the backpack. So we had to reconstruct these large 3D elements and then put them back into the shot and make it look perfect because it's our star. Angelina has to get down to the presidential bunker. She climbs down the elevator shaft. Did you know that's actually a digital elevator shaft? So we shot Angelina in a practical set, and then we took all those shots of her and we extracted her out of them. And we built an entirely digital 3D elevator shaft with an elevator car. And then we put her back into all these new shots that we made digitally. We were able to move the camera in ways that you could never do on a practical set. And we were able to give her a sense of motion that you don't get from someone just hanging on a wire. We were able to add some bounce and shake when we took out the wire, and then add twists and turns to the camera. The thing here was we had to hand rotoscope her out of the existing photography and then design new camera moves that would work with that and build it into the sequence where she's going down a much bigger elevator shaft than was constructed for her stunts. We had to light it in 3D, build every single piece of dirt and debris, paint the interior so it looked like cement with smudges on it. This is a sequence we're really proud of because it's a completely digital CG environment.